All right, everyone. We're live right now. We're live. Good afternoon, everyone. So this afternoon right here, I'm joining today from Lagos, Nigeria, and so sorry for the delay. Yeah. Sorry for the delay. We had a little technical challenge, and I sincerely apologize for that. But I hope you all are good. So please, as you're coming in, the chat box is open. Drop your location where you're coming in, and feel free to also drop your question whenever you feel like asking a question. I'm going to attend to you. So this is Ascend. We are back to this week's session. As we have always done it, it's an interactive session where we discuss everything tech. We hear from seniors and experts in different fields of technology. So, and I believe that today will also be an awesome session. And we have a guest speaker here. I'm going to be introducing him. I'll be introducing him to you guys. And I believe so many of you maybe are meeting him for the first time or possibly have seen him somewhere else because he's quite popular in the industry, right? So today we're going to be talking about mobile application development. It's an interesting topic that everybody wants to hear, from beginner to future ready, how to start your mobile application development journey. And not just that, how you can build a high performance application. So if you have been in the mobile development space, you'll understand the difference between having an application that is performing optimally and application that is glitching. There is a gap, and it's most times a knowledge gap, it's most times an experience gap, it's most times gap from the developer's end, right? So thank you so much, and you're all welcome to today's session. I'm Prince, and you guys know me. I've been your host for this program for quite a long period of time, and so many people have been joining us. Today we have Anthony Atoha joining us today. Please, you're welcome. Thank you, Anthony, for honoring this invitation to be our speaker. Right. So Anthony is an amazing guy. So I've met him for the first time was on LinkedIn. We had a conversation. I invited him to come and speak to everyone to share his experience. And yeah, he accepted to do that. And I'm so happy to have him today. Okay, so he's a mobile software engineer and is recognized for delivering scalable, high performance application and also driving engineering excellence across teams. He's currently the CTO at EV1 Health, right? So that's a very strong position for some persons who've not been in that position. Being a CTO is a whole lot of responsibility. So you have to understand him making out time to join us today is a huge sacrifice. Thank you so much, Anthony. He's an active technical speaker, he's a writer and a mentor known for simplifying complex concepts and contributing meaningfully to the global developers community. And he'll be doing just that in today's session. Okay, so I will also give him the floor to do a bit of a more intro of himself to you guys before we dive into what we have for today. All right, so Anthony, please, can you say hi to everyone so they can meet you one on one?
Definitely. Thank you, Prince, for the
Yeah.
invite. Okay, I think literally everyone that is in the mobile sphere must have come across um, an article I must have written for Frequent Camp, or must have seen a Google event where I'm either speaking on. I'm someone that doesn't just excel in building products, but see giving back to the community, just like joining Prince today, speaking at sections, writing for Free Code Camp, contributing to open source as a way for all of us to learn. As we on this section, there will be questions that will be asked that will force me to rethink things that I've known. And that is just it. So thank you, Prince, for the invite.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you. I really appreciate it for joining us. Okay, guys, so let's kick the ball and jump into what we have for today. Okay, so I can't wait to hear from you guys. So if you have any question, please feel free to make use of the chat box. You drop your question on the chat box. I think the chat box is open. Yeah, it's open for everyone, and anybody can just drop your question, observations, and comments. Please feel free to ask him questions. He's an expert in mobile development. Yeah, I'm an engineer. I develop basically in the backend side of development, and everyone has their strength. Okay, so most of the times I've worked with a lot of mobile engineers, right? I also work with a lot of front end engineers, and I've come to understand that there are specific domain knowledge applicable to each of these areas. That being an engineer is not just enough, but having hands-on experience in this domain gives you a lot of technical knowledge and understanding of how things are done and also how problems are solved. There are problems that are unique to mobile development. There are problems unique to front-end development. And there are problems unique to back-end development. So except you start having this kind of conversation with people who have first-hand experience with these issues, you wouldn't understand how to go about it. And sometimes one thing I've also come to understand about software engineering and also engineering in general is that most times if you don't come to a situation where people talk about problems and issues that they encounter, you would personally possibly feel that you are having this issue in isolation. Most of the problems that you are having or you would have in the future, someone out there at some point in their career encounter these situations, and it will be at your best interest to hear them and also understand how they solve it. Even if you don't have that problem in the future, you can add it to your knowledge bank, and that's a whole lot. You can help someone who is also having it. All right. So, one thing about our session and also about this call, we've been having several of these calls, and what we do is that we try to bring in everybody into the same table. We try to create a balance, starting from newbies, those who are also trying to make decision on which part of technology to actually go into, and those who have made the decision and they are trying to scale up. Okay, so we also have people who are currently in the field and they are looking at hearing from seniors to know what is the next step and what should be the next approach on what they are doing, right? So I'm going to take it from the basic. I'm going to take it from um the least of it, where I'm seeing some persons trying to make a decision on what to do and how to start a mobile development journey, right? So, in a world where almost everything is done on our phones, banking, learning, shopping, and even ordering food, okay, mobile developers are really shaping the world, not just in Nigeria, everywhere in the world. The way they live and the way they work is impacting on people's emotion. Okay, so the big question for many beginners is where where do I even start? Like they don't know where to start. Which tool do they use? Which tool do I use? How do I build apps that actually work well? Let's say in Nigeria or in any context. Okay, so how do I deal with issues like bad network connections, low end devices, compatibility issues, and so many of these things? So today we are breaking it all down. Okay, we're going to clear the confusion that many persons have. Of course, we're going to make it interactive. So if you have your questions, like I've said, ensure you drop it. Okay, so for us to kick off, let's talk about something that confuses almost every beginner, and that is, where do I start from? Should I start with building Android apps, iOS apps? We have Flutter out there, we have React Native. Like, which one should I start with? This is a common question that most people want to go into mobile development. These are the kind of questions that encounter. So it can be overwhelming sometimes, right? So which one would you recommend they should start with, and how do you recommend they should start?
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's a very fantastic question. Thank you, Prince.
Yeah.
So that question doesn't have a straightforward answer, but it has like a guideline to follow.
Okay.
So the first here is recognizing if you're a beginner, answer the question where if beginner with no prior programming knowledge, that is one. If you're a beginner with no
Okay.
prior programming language and you want by development to be the first thing you're getting into, say I say I have a son or I have a nephew who just finished possibly basic education and feels like he wants to dive into tech and he wants to start mobile development. If I'm going to advise him, I need to factor in location first. I need to factor in his knowledge base. I need to factor in devices or platforms he wants to work with, he wants to develop for. That's one thing. If and we are in Nigeria, I'm currently in Lagos, Nigeria, and a lot of people that this content is tailored for are people in Nigeria. So we'll make it to be where you get to start off from Nigeria and also make yourself relevant. So first of all, if you have prior programming language, the best thing you can do is to use that to your advantage. And a lot of people who have prior programming languages are people who have experience with JavaScript. If you've worked with JavaScript, that is, you're coming from web. Almost all backend engineers or people who has worked with or some programming languages have had experience with JavaScript. And the best thing you can use if you're coming from JavaScript and you've used React is for you to use React Native. That would be the best. The truth of the matter is that there is no best platform or framework you can use to build. What matters is your knowledge base and your ability to build using that platform. So if I have React Native knowledge and I've been building web applications or web pages using React, I can easily switch to React Native. And React Native is just React running on mobile. That's just what it is. And if I'm somebody who doesn't have any prior knowledge and I've noticed that what I want to build is just Android applications. I want to build Android applications tailored for Android users. What I get to use is that I go native. I can go native to start building using Kotlin or to start building using Java. A lot of people use Java, but Kotlin has replaced Java because of how good Kotlin is and all of that. So it's more or less has replaced it. So if I'm choosing to build for Android, I will use Kotlin. And that is if I'm targeting for Android users. If I'm in a location where I believe that everybody around me is using an iPhone, and the platform I want to build for is for iOS devices. I want to build, I'm so fixated on iPhones and iOS apps, and I'm so intrigued by it. I don't need to start learning React Native to start building cross-platformly use for native Android and for iOS. I can switch directly to using Swift or Objective C to build for it. So there is no single programming language you can use. And then here comes in when most times when you don't have any, most people prior to having a programming language or not having programming language, most people in Nigeria who have had experiences with startups and companies who want to build and maintain one code base always run towards using cross-platform frameworks like Flutter, React Native, Xamarin, Iconic, and the rest. And the beautiful part of it is that it doesn't just give you the expertise, it gives you an ability for you to work with your ecosystem. So if I'm starting up, I won't tell you to move to Flutter. I won't tell you to move to Kotlin. I won't tell you to move to Swift. I won't tell you to move to React Native. I will tell you to answer the questions that are personal to you, personal to your location. Then you make a decision. That's what it is. You
Mm.
need to act from either you are either you are somebody who has a knowledge or not about programming or not. You can actually choose Flutter, and a whole lot of people used to. I'll give you a life example of myself. So I will use myself as an example because this question is something that even I myself I keep on answering it every day. So I started with Java, then I moved to Kotlin. Because I pivoted from mobile onto web, I had extensive experience with React, and I use React too extensively. The next option for me to use when I wanted to build Swift knowledge, I had to move straight to React Native. I used React Native to an extent, and I felt like React Native wasn't giving me what I wanted. That was then, that was years ago. Then I moved to Flutter. And the reason I moved to Flutter was not to discredit anything. I felt like Android as an operating system running on our phone is pioneered by Google, right? And then Flutter is a framework built by Google, right? So this company is building a cross-platform framework, and they're telling you that it's going to be running for both. It's going to be useful, or it's going to compile to both Android and iOS. So it's going to run on both devices. That was one of the reasons I switched. So I believe that there won't be a time when I won't feel like there's a feature I want to push on Android or in iOS that Flutter cannot handle. That was it. That's personal. And everyone needs to answer that question. React Native can do amazingly, effectively what Flutter can do. But that was just my personal belief. And that was it. So there's no one solution where someone can tell you, go learn Kotlin for building Android application, and that's just it. There is no one platform that is the best out there. What matters is what you think the location where you are uses, the platform you feel like you want to build on top of. And currently now, Swift is shipping what you can use to build. Currently, you can, I think next year, you can actually render your apps in Android using Swift. The same thing goes with Kotlin.
Yeah,
So you need to basically
yeah.
understand the question, not just so that you won't be jumping from one framework to another one or from one language to another one.
Mm. Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's quite very, very important to understand some of these foundations, especially when it come to has to do with a beginner. Can you hear me?
Definitely, I can hear you very well.
Okay. So you said very, very important to understand this concept, especially when it has to do with you becoming being a beginner. One thing I've come to understand about beginners, so many people give up at the early stage of their career, not because the whole system is kind of complicated, but because of the decisions that they made starting. So the decisions they made at the early stages were not something that could give them a flexible entry into what they wanted to do, into the kind of career they wanted to build. So because of that kind of decision, they struggled, right? So someone hearing, you need to understand, like you mentioned, you need to understand your foundation. Where are you coming from? So if you've already just very quite simple, just like you already know, maybe you are transitioning from from front end into back end, you're already doing JavaScript in the front end. Most times I advise people, if you're already from back end, are going to, I mean, if you're currently in the front end and you're going to the back end, one very smooth entry path you have is to use JavaScript, use Node.js, and just transition into the back end. You just need to learn some of the native tools within Node.js ecosystem, and then you move, right? So that's quite smooth, right? So for someone who's already into JavaScript, maybe you're already a a web developer, you've had some experiences with JavaScript. React is a JavaScript library or framework. Either ways, either a framework or library is, think, powered by Facebook or so. So it's a JavaScript framework or library. It's quite so easy for you to transition from the web using React instead of going to do Flutter, like he mentioned. Very, very easy for you. And somewhere along the line, after you must have mastered web development with React, it will be also easier for you to transition to Flutter. I think I also love your part, the way you moved from Java to React and to Flutter. I think understanding community of every tool that you are using, the community behind the tool you are using, is also very much important in making in your decision making, in making the choice of what to use. Just like you mentioned that, yeah, Google pioneered Flutter, so it's quite easier for you to understand that you get a lot of support doing Flutter with Android because they kind of have some compatibility in terms of communities, right? So yeah, that's great. Thank you so much. Thank you. I think this is a whole lot. This is a whole lot because for someone who is right here paying attention to this session right now, you understand where you can start from. So if you have a JavaScript knowledge and you're going into mobile development, React Native is there for you, please. Is an easy entry for you. But if you don't have any native knowledge, I just want to go in, you should also make the decision of, am I going into Android, full-time Android? Am I going into full-time iOS? Right? So if you're going into full-time Android, he just mentioned to you that Kotlin is dominating the industry. All these programming languages are good, they are all cool, but you also need to understand how is their impact in the industry. There are some programming languages that their job demands are quite low and some are very high. Okay, so just like you mentioned that Kotlin is dominating the industry, doesn't really make Kotlin some of kind of super kind of more, have some kind of more support than Java. It's just that I think the community just adopted it and it's becoming kind of popular and common in the job market, right? So if you have Java knowledge, you can still do with Java. But if you're trying to learn afresh, instead of going into Java for a mobile developer who is going into Android, you should take Kotlin, considering the market demand for it, just like you mentioned. Okay, thank you so much, guy. Thank you so much. I appreciate that feedback. Right. So, still, we are still in the same beginner starting guide, right? So someone has already made the decision of, okay, I'm going into this, I want to go into that. I've heard a lot of comments from mobile developers, especially with the kind of devices they use. Many of them complain that I'm trying to build this app and it's lagging, my PC is slow, and all those kind of stuff, which is not necessarily some kind of issues we encounter in the back end. Okay, so we hardly have those kind of build issues, emulator issues, and all those kind of stuff that you guys experience. Okay, so going with this, what do you think? What kind of laptop or what kind of device you suggest for someone who wants to go into mobile development or want to start building a high performance application in Nigeria, for instance? Yeah.
Amazing. So the big part of it is that nobody starts their tech career, especially a lot of people that started their tech career while in school. So not people who started their tech career having a lot of finances or
Yeah.
having funds for all of this flashy setup. So picture it this way. So when I started programming, I started programming in 2016 precisely, and I didn't even have a laptop then. So I owned a laptop a year after
Mm,
starting programming. So I was teaching in a computer school. So I was using the computer in the school where I was teaching to learn programming and all of that. So I was just self-teaching and stuff. Then I had an ability to purchase a system after a year. Then I bought my first PC for 50K. Then I entered school, started learning Java. 3 months or 6 months trying to save money to get another laptop. So while I was doing that,
mm,
I wasn't working. I was just in my first year. So I was writing Java code on paper and all of that. And moving from that trajectory
yeah.
to turning, and the best route, or for some people who come from that kind of storyline, is to do web. Yes, you can use even a Core i3 system to do your web, right? But when you now want to do your mobile, it doesn't get it gets funny, because you have to run with Android Studio, which is very heavy. You have to run with emulator issues and all of that. But there are other ways you can boycott it without going to buy the most expensive gadget on the store. I started with a Windows PC when I was learning mobile. I started with a Windows PC. So what I did was, the minimum I wanted to get is get a system that is up to Core i5, 8 gig RAM, and make sure it is SSD. Make sure the hard disk is SSD, because SSD makes it run faster. It makes it not to lag. SSD have a way of storing your data and all of that prior to the normal hard disk we know. Then what you do is, don't use emulators for now. I'm talking about when you are, for a beginner, not someone, as I mentioned, for someone who is just starting, not someone who is in school. The person that is listening to this is not somebody who is established already. This is for beginners, somebody who just wants to dive into mobile. So most of them have Windows, as you mentioned, in Nigeria. So what you can do is get the system, and almost everybody device. So what you do is
Mhm.
connect your Android device to your system, enable USB debugging. So you can always run your app or test your app physically on your device. What you just have to do is connect it through the wire, through the cable to your device, and you can always test run with it. The funny part is that this device setup, or specification is why a lot of people are not diving into mobile. They'll feel like they have to own an M4, an M1, an M series Mac for them to get it. And all of these are very, very exorbitant, cost exorbitant.
Expensive.
And if you are starting up building, let's just say, put it this way now, you study computer science and your parents are funding your education, they are paying your school fees, and you tell your dad or your mom or your guardian that you want to buy M2 or an M3 that is cost over, let's say, 1.3 million. How does that sound? So it doesn't sound that amazing. So what you can start with is that same laptop you are using to do your project work, your assignment and stuff. And for the big guys who are already developers, who are backend engineers, who are web developers, they're already using these machines. They can go for an M1. They can go for an M1 that has 16 gig RAM, 512 gig SSD. It's okay. Literally, what you just need to do when you're starting mobile development is Android Studio. And if you are using Android Studio, VS Code, you can start with VS Code and Android Studio. That is, if you are building for Android or you are building for, you are using framework like React Native or Flutter, literally need is React VS Code, that is one, Android Studio, and if you're on a Mac, you can download Xcode so that you can also run and test for Windows for iOS. But if you are not having a system that is not giving you the ability for you to, you have an income that is not giving you the ability for you to own a Mac immediately, you can actually go for a lesser Mac. It doesn't need to be an M1. You can get. I usually tell people that um, you don't need to own an M1 for you to own a laptop, for you to own a MacBook. You can get a 2019 Mac that is, you can get 2019 16 gig 512. And it will do exactly the same thing. You can get this for 600K in Ikeja, in Computer Village in Ikeja. You can get it for 600K or slightly below it. And that's it. You install Android Studio, you install VS Code, you install Xcode. The only thing you have to do is that make sure that the space doesn't get so filled up that is remaining like 1 gig or 2 gig or 10 gig. That's what lacks the system. When the hard disk is almost filled up, that's when it starts lagging. When you run
Yeah.
simulators, don't run a lot. Don't run 5 simulators at once. Run one simulator for iOS, run one emulator, and when you're running an emulator, don't go towards running those ones that are new and flashy. Those Pixel 9, Pixel 10 Pro, and all of that. That when you're installing Android Studio gives you this prompt for you to install using what the community is using. And if you follow that instruction or that guide, you're going to install an emulator that doesn't lag the system. That's just it. And if you feel like your system is lagging, you can always connect your iPhone when you are using Mac, or you can connect your Android phone when you're building for Android. It doesn't necessarily need to be that you must own a Mac. The only advantage of owning a MacBook is that it helps you target iOS devices. With a Windows PC, and you're using if you're building on Flutter, you can actually build. Flutter is automatically cross-platform. So when you're writing a code, that code you're writing can actually render on the web. It can render on your desktop. It can render on your Android, on your iOS. The only thing there is you have that platform for you to render it on. So if you are working with let's say you're working with any IBM compatible PC like Dell, Toshiba, and all of that, you can build know fully where you're targeting iOS, but the only thing is that you are not going to be able to test it. That's just the only difference. You're not going to be able to test it. You're not going to see how it looks like when it's running on an iPhone. So you need to be able to own a Mac. You need to have a Mac for you to run on an iPhone. That's just the only difference. So for a starter who is starting, you can start with your Windows if that's what you have, so that it won't be, one thing about taking action is that when you feel like after this section you want to kickstart your career as a developer, you'll be like, I will have to wait the next 6 months when I can save up to own a Mac for me to start. A lot of things can happen within the next 6 months, and that's just it.
Yeah, that's reality. That's reality. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. One very important thing that I've come to observe from your response and your feedback is that you didn't start from the top. I seen it now. You started even at the point of not having a laptop, not having a PC. So I tell people a lot of this. You don't need to be comfortable to start. When you're talking about starting, you're not talking about advancing. There's a place of starting, there's a place of you advancing, scaling up in your career. Okay. So you start with the minimal, the best you can afford at that point, right? So you said you mentioned you were using not just your PC, you were using a PC at your workplace, and that was enough for you to start. What kept you going was the confidence, the discipline, the persistence that you put in on a daily basis to make sure that you're showing up. And after a while, you grab the skill and start making money to get a better PC. So one thing is that you'll always keep improving and things always keep changing. Okay, so there is no single time you have everything you need in this world. Of course, there is a place of comfort, but as a beginner and someone who is trying to build a career, it's very, very important that you know what you need and know how to build up to a certain stage where you can be more comfortable, right? So don't allow comfort or the need for comfort to stop you, to keep you and delay you from starting. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your feedback, right? So, yeah, devices for people that want to go into cross-platform development. You just heard about it. You can, if you have something called i5 is good, right? And if you can't afford a PC that can run up to the standard of what you want, you can start with, like we just mentioned, that okay, React Native is for the web, sorry, for mobile, and we also have React for the web. So you can start learning your JavaScript, the basic things in JavaScript, at least for now. Start getting yourself comfortable with React itself so that probably in the future you can transition to React Native and start building mobile when you have a more stable PC. Yeah, yeah, go on, go on.
Okay, so the beautiful part of it is that even if you want to move to Flutter, even if so the beautiful part of it, one thing you mentioned that resonated with me is that you don't need to start from a place of having, that is a place of abundance. So even if you want to work with Flutter today,
Hmm.
and Flutter is the language you feel like is what you want to work with, Flutter works with that. With that is just like that is like JavaScript. So if you worked with JavaScript, you worked with Python, you worked with C++, or you've not had any language knowledge before, programming language, you can actually work with that part. So that runs on that has like a VM machine that it works with that you can use that part.dev. From there, you can actually run your that part code. Even if you don't have a PC, I mean, even if you're using Chromebook, even if you are in a place where you are not allowed to run use machines that install auxiliary apps or stuff like that. If you're using Chromebook, even if it's an iPad that you own, even if it's a mobile device that you own. So the word is so good that you can actually run that part on the web. If you use that part.dev, you can practice lit codes, you can practice a whole lot of loop, the data structure and all of that just on the web with your Android device, with your iPhone till
Yeah,
pending the day you now get a PC. So when you get a
yeah,
PC, those things you learn is what you're going to use in Flutter. That's just
exactly,
what it is.
exactly. Exactly. Thank you so much. You just need to transfer the knowledge and start going higher because at least you've learned the basic programming language that are required for this platform. Most of the Flutter is built to run with that. I mean, that is the base language of Flutter. React Native is React is JavaScript and TypeScript, right? So even if you can't afford to own a laptop or a device that can run these things comfortably the way you want it, you can start learning these base languages that make up those frameworks. Okay, we've learned JavaScript, master it very well, learn that, master that very well. Awaiting the day you will get a PC. I'll tell you, before you learn and master all these things very well, before getting a PC, definitely get a PC and you practice. Even if you don't get a PC, if it's JavaScript, the JavaScript knowledge you have, you can start doing front end with it, and you make money from there. You can save up and buy your PC that you need for your mobile. Right. So, guys, thank you so much, Antonio. I really appreciate your feedback. I think let's go to the next thing, and I believe this guy, everyone is yeah, really interested in what we are discussing. And if you have any question, can share us up on the comment section. Right, you can just say hi. You are following. You like what we are saying. Share us up, thumbs up, anything you want to say, you can say it on the comment section, just to give us a clue that you are with us. Yeah. Okay, so there are a whole lot about mobile development, and at some point, when I was working in a company some time ago as a senior backend engineer, so we had a mobile dev guy, and he's always complaining. He's always complaining, and one of the reasons was because there's always issues, feedbacks coming from the customers who are using this application, saying that this button was working today, tomorrow it's no longer working. Some of these issues were related to the kind of devices they had. Like some persons have devices and the app cannot run comfortably on their devices. That starts glitching and other stuff. All right. Yeah, Knockhead, thank you so much. Biggest takeaway so far. Start with what you have. Thank you so much for that comment. Okay, so back to what I was saying. They have a lot of back and forths most times with apps that fail on some devices, apps that are hanging, something that has to do with crashing, sometimes heating up and other stuff, right? So, from my own perspective and also from my experience as an engineer, I've come to understand that this thing has to do sometimes with architecture, right? It has to do sometimes with architecture, sometimes with app structure. I feel like there are structures that are not proper. Okay, so if I tell all this down to my backend experience, if you have a bad design, you will definitely have either a maintenance problem or operation problem. Okay, so sometimes operating the project might get a bit messy, or sometimes doing maintenance might get a bit messy, and a lot of crashing might happen. So I'm also bringing in that kind of experience into the mobile dev field. Okay, so can you break down what this app architecture means in the simplest way? Okay, so maybe an example of how bad structure, bad architecture can make an app to crash or to heat up, so that beginners can start having this thing at the back of their mind, and also some persons who are also currently in the field can also have some of this knowledge at their fingertip while they are building. Thank you.
Amazing. So I'm going to point a
Yeah.
little about what you said about the experience you had with the mobile engineer, then move over to the architecture. So literally,
Okay.
when you are building for when you are building mobile application, you are targeting a whole lot of devices, including devices you've not seen before.
Yeah.
And when you're a web developer, I came from web, so I moved from mobile to web to backend to mobile again, and all of that. So I do a whole lot, but I do mainly mobile. So when you're working on the web, the only thing you care about are web browsers. Are they on Chrome? Are they on Safari? Are they on Mozilla? Are they on this one? Are they on Arc? But that
That's true.
you have like few devices, especially when you're a front end engineer. You have like few applications or web browsers that you can get, max 5 or 6. But now when you're a mobile developer building for users, the list is very big. You have devices that are old, you have new ones, you have devices that are longer, you have this, you have that. So the only way for you to make sure and ascertain that what you're building will not break is for you to rigorously test. That's why we have a career that is called QA, quality assurance. So the best way to test is not for you to test with the device you have. I test with the device I have. It works perfectly on ours, and that's it. We deploy. No, you can test using test lab. You can test using writing automated tests, testing on various devices, making sure that whatever you've written is not just something that is ascertained by somebody who is in the customer success or HR or whoever that tested for you. It needs to be something, that button that is being pressed for you to trigger an action needs to have an automated test on it, and they need to test it in a way that weights QA tests on various devices at the same time. That's why if you see an SDET, somebody who is a software development and testing, they have various ways of testing using the various devices. They cover a lot of devices. Even you as a user, even you as a programmer, you can program covering a lot of devices, as in targeting a lot of devices and testing it. So that you make sure that there'll be no point in time except if there will be a backend failure or an error that is coming from the backend that is not properly handled. So there might be a network glitch. Someone's data can finish and they are sending a request and it's not going. That will be reported as something that is the button is not pressing. That can be a feedback, a review. Their data might have been exhausted, or they're in a low network area and they're pressing a button to send money, is not pressing. The backend is returning something. You are not handling the error very well in a way that the user can see it and know that something is actually happening, stopping you from having this action that you want, this intent result you want. There's something that is stopping it. But you're only handling actions when it is a 404, 504, or 401 or stuff like that. Just handling specific errors that you think could happen. That's another thing. Another thing. So on the architecture part, so architecture is literally like how you arrange your code in the app. So if you have like in mobile development, even in backend, so I've been a backend engineer as well. Whenever you're writing code and you don't split you don't follow that. First one there is your folder structure. You start from your folder structure first. You don't maintain a good folder structure in a way that you're splitting consigns. You are splitting. This is the user model. This handles the user function. This handles everything that you follow principle solid. You don't what's the right word? So let me give you a case scenario now. When you
Okay.
join a project and the project just have like a directory name. Let's say the project name is XYZ project, and then we have list of files.
Mm-hmm.
List of files. This has to do with both the user repository, this one, that one, everything, the facade, every single thing is written there. The state management, everything is structured in a way that is just there, and there is no separation. And one thing that happens with all of these, just something like React. Let's not just focus on mobile, so that it will be beneficial to everybody. When you are using
Okay.
a framework for front end, and something like React, something like Flutter, you can write logic inside that same file. Let's say you have a file called abc.dat, abc.js, abc.ts. You can write React. You can also write a logic that is supporting what you're doing. That is one. So if you find a way to separate your consigns, separate UI from your logic, this can actually create an avenue for you to make sure that there's separation of consign. And another thing there is working on something where you are constantly listening to events, listening to triggers, WebSockets. We are using WebSockets and you're consistently listening to it every 15 seconds, every 2 seconds, you're consistently listening to it without having anything like the bouncers or having something that is like, you can actually build your the bouncers yourself. You can have a hot. Like when you are creating a search a search box, and you are triggering an API request on every keystroke. Somebody is searching for you. You are building a payment app, and then you are searching for bank. And then I type O. Immediately I type O. Immediately that will be like an automatic
A trigger.
API request. A trigger immediately.
Mm-hmm.
That is one. You type in P, the same thing. So one of the things we can do is to know that almost all banks have names that cover almost 4 letter words or 3 letter words. You can trigger a search or an API request at 3 stroke at the enter of the third letter. That way, there won't be excessive trigger. That can crash.
Yeah.
And that thing is about listening to events. So a
Mm-hmm.
bad app will call the API every time the screen loads. So another thing is when you're working with network images, Network images are things that you know that are being fetched from the network, right? Or you are working with let's say you're building a music app, just like Spotify, and then you feel that you have things like you're fetching heavy things you're fetching from the network, and then you're fetching this, you're fetching that at the same time. There is nothing like a waiting state. There is nothing like a preloader or something like that. That's when you see all of these heavy web applications you see that are very heavy that use all of these extensive libraries and stuff. When they're loading, you see a preloader that is still loading. And then if you look
Yeah.
at the base, you'll be seeing the request that is being made at these different libraries. You see the request that is being made. The same thing comes to mobile. It's the same thing. So you need to understand that this is not just about how to structure your folder or how to name applications for somebody to learn it. Architecture is not just for mentality. It's also for you to make sure that you architect your app in a way that it is future proof. So that if there is low network issue, if there is no data, your app knows there is no data. If the network is bad and you send the request, you don't even need backend. You don't need to send it to backend and backend will respond there is no data or something related to that. That's too much. You don't even need to send the request. On the front end there, as a mobile developer, you need to be able to handle it on your own. So there are libraries like internet connection, internet connectivity plus, an internet network checker or something like that on pub.dev. I used to use it. I've written an article on it or in free code camp. You can check it out. You can always listen to your internet connection because I I can bet you that almost 20% of the reason people give apps bad reviews is because of internet connectivity, especially in Nigeria. So your network can be poor, my network can be poor, my data can even exhaust. And one beautiful part of it is that you may be using MTN or Airtel, and then MTN is no longer working. It used to happen to me. We can be on this call, and then my network will not work again, and I have to switch to Airtel. So that could be the user's issue, and then the user will feel frustrated, and then they have to go to app review. That's the only place they can vent. They go to your app, where your app is, and they drop a bad review. The next second that they might try to open TikTok, and then they see that TikTok is not bringing them new feeds. They have to maybe switch network or buy new data because TikTok is not giving them new feed. That's when they know they don't even have data again. Not your app. Your app is actually not working. That's what they feel like. But TikTok is not loading videos for them, or LinkedIn is not loading new content for them. That's when they know they don't have data, or the network is not working.
Mm.
But they've dropped a bad review for you. The question is, will they remember to delete that after they've dropped it?
Yeah.
That, that's it.
They, of how it's actually, especially with people's psychology. So I think the more has to do with people's psychology because most people tend to dump their bad feelings, their bad day, their other experiences on issues that are not really attached to the mobile developer or the mobile team, right? Just like you mentioned, someone is having a bad internet connection and he's blaming the mobile application that this is not working. And people have an anticipation when it has to do with mobile applications because you know I think there are a lot of praise per se. For instance, people tend to compare some apps with WhatsApp. They'll tell you, yeah, WhatsApp is always opening even if you don't have network and all those stuff. And they will tell you, yeah, when I open my WhatsApp, it's kind of it gives me some feedback even if I don't have network. And when I don't have network, I know. And I think WhatsApp actually maximizes the lowest level of internet connection to work, right? So I think I've actually and done that. And I think there are factors that make up to that. Don't know if you want to talk about it, but I also know that uh, network connection is a big challenge, especially for people in this part of the world, in Africa and in Nigeria, where our network connectivity is not stable. You can't guarantee that you have. Even sometimes you can have data full in your device and yet can't connect. Okay, so the pain of having enough data and you can't connect, which literally comes from the network providers. Okay, kind of will be voted and dumped on the mobile development team because they felt like these guys are the cause, but they are not. It's actually a network issue. Okay, so there are a whole lot, and of course, as a mobile developer, you have to ensure that you do your part. The part of doing your testing, the part of doing your debugging. That you feel it's working is not enough for you to push it to production. Okay, you have to allow your testing prove it. So test driven development cannot be overemphasized. Although for some challenges, even most times when backends give issues, they blame people at the mobile side that the mobile app is not working, and no one comes to blame the backend guys, right? So we are somehow you hardly see anybody blaming the backend team for anything because they don't see them, they don't know what's going on with them, they don't know when the issue is coming from them. The only team they can interface with is the mobile team. So I think I also feel for the mobile team, and I think every mobile developer should be proactive. Every mobile developer should be very, very careful, and every mobile developer should in critically then debug to ensure that at every point the issue, if not free, error free. I mean, if there's anything like error free, and it's very hard to achieve a complete error free project, but very close to it, right? So please, if you're going to be taking this career path, these are some of the psychological issues that you'll be encountering. These are some of the challenges that you'll be encountering from people, not necessarily because of your fault, because it's your fault, but because you are the only one and your app is what they can interface with at the moment. So they blame you, right? So thank you so much for causes in that balance between what lead to app crashing. And I believe, yeah, okay. I believe many persons who are here are not just developers, some are also mobile app users. Okay, I think this also gives you a knowledge on how to approach problems when you are facing it. Okay, so when you have a mobile app that is having an issue, it was serving you before but automatically stopped. So you need to try out issues like network, issues like your device, and all those stuff before you raise a complaint about the application. All right, so you wanted to say something, please, you can go ahead.
Yes, you mentioned something about WhatsApp. So one of the
Mhm.
things that, as you mentioned, is psychological. So one of the things I didn't mention was the fact that when you send, most of the errors people get is because of network, and then
Mhm.
why people report this is because of error handling. So when
Mhm.
the network is bad, you need to find a way to make sure that you have a limit. So if I'm sending a request, so a very good example is OPay app.
Yeah.
OPay app will not allow you to recharge your meter if if you are using, let's say you are using Ikeja electricity and you
The
want to
third
recharge it.
party.
It will not allow you if their network is bad, if their service is bad.
Yeah.
So it won't even allow
Yeah.
you to recharge. It will tell you if you want to recharge airtime for yourself, MTN for yourself, or Airtel for yourself, if you want to do data, it won't allow you. So they know the network strength of all of these providers. Even banks, they also know network strength of all of these banks. They listen to it. They know that this transaction is not going to work. So instead of you coming to rant, they stop you even if they get to lose that money. Let's say you want to do 5k data, and 5k data is something it looks big to you, right? And a lot of us that do unlimited, if you do unlimited, let's say you're spending like 60k every month and you want to use OPay to pay for it, and OPay can be getting as little as or as big as they can get. They are willing to let go of that money or that revenue to make sure that you don't do it, and it doesn't work. It will most times it allow you to even go ahead when they feel like the strength is to a certain degree. They allow you to go ahead. But when it's the strength is very, very poor, they don't allow you to go ahead at all at all. They just stop it. What are they doing? They're protecting themselves. And that is mobile development work. That's not backend. That's mobile.
Yeah.
Then another thing there is the um, local storage. So when WhatsApp or anything else that you're building, and you feel like you want your users to be, there's this in Nigeria we do offline first. We don't even do mobile first. We do offline first because of network issues. So if somebody send a request, if there's a way for you to catch it, you can use SQLite, you can use Hive, you can use shared preference, you can use a whole lot to store whatever the person has done or anything. When there is data, you send it back. You submit that request. You send it to us. That's what WhatsApp does. So WhatsApp, except when it gets that red icon or whatsoever that is at the right hand side. If you send something and it's still giving you that clock icon or something, whenever you have data, automatically it goes. So it has stored what you have locally and is waiting for data connection. That's another thing. So that's why majority of the reason apps are not giving users what they want is from, yes, backend plays a role. But what matters is the fact that what you are building is what the users see. Backend can be messing up, but a user won't feel frustrated into the to the extent they feel frustrated to the extent you want them to feel frustrated. So if backend is
Mm.
returning or is not yielding the result you want, what you can do is to find a way to handle your errors perfectly. The errors are not just errors that are known to us, are not just errors where the server has gone bad, or errors when the server is gone or it has broken or somebody has carried it or it has turned to pieces. No, the error can be as little as the person not having access to network or the person entering a zone where uh, the internet provider they are using is not working in that estate. Somebody can enter an estate and then that estate
Yeah.
doesn't have a strong network for Airtel. That's just it. But when they leave, it works. So you need to find a way to always be able to give that kind of feedback, that constructive feedback. To know when somebody sends something, you give them every platform now, and every developer should have this at the back of their mind that the errors are not always from backend. And the errors users report are not just something that is returning 404 or 5 whatsoever. So that's just it.
Mm. That's quite good. Yeah, that's true. At least having this specific uh, issues spelled out, actually everyone, both users, developers, on where the issue comes from and how it can be tackled. Right. So thank you so much. We already know that here in Nigeria, there is a native natural problem that we have: bad network, limited data, low-end phones. Right. So some persons are using outdated operating systems. If it's Android, it's outdated. All right. Some persons if it's iOS, some of those are no longer properly supported. Okay. So and this thing also tell on how much they enjoy flexibility on whatever application that they are using. Okay. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. At least I know that there are companies like Opay who are really doing a good work, and I commend them for that, trying to sort out some of those major issues that mobile applications face in Nigeria, going with network, low, inconsistent network coverage, and all those stuff, right? So thank you very much for pointing out these very crucial areas that need to be attended to and how a mobile developer can approach them as well as users can approach them. Okay, so if you're having, I believe as a user, you should by now know how to approach the issues on your mobile applications when you start encountering them. It's not always from the company, and for the company, it's not always the user's fault, right? Thank you so much for that. So we have discussed a whole lot, and I think we need to talk about money now, because most people are going into they go into these because they want to make ends meet, and we are well, I think I'm also in that category. And I need to make money. Yeah, there's a place of passion, there's a place of supporting the community, just like this session is free. Okay, but there's also a place of you making money, because if you don't make money, you kind of lose out on courage and motivation, right? So, and there are different ways that mobile application can yield money to developers. Okay, so first, I know that you can build a career, you get a job, and you get paid as a mobile developer. There are a lot of mobile development gigs out there, a lot of them, so many of them. There are as much as other development gigs. There are many of them. And I think you're in the best position to advise and say how much the industry is thriving. Okay. So, but this is my first concern about applications. Some persons believe that applications can be monetized. As a matter of fact, someone met me some time ago and was like, I want to, he told me that he wanted to start building mobile applications. I said, yeah, that's good. And then he said, he mentioned that he wants to build them, ship them to Play Store, and when people download it, as they are using it, the internet data is being converted to money that will be entering his account. I say, "Oh, are you a magician? How possible is that?" He said that he knows and is fully convinced that people that have all those mobile applications, that internet money, the data that users recharge on their phone as they are making and staying on the application, that this is be converted to funds that enter the account of the developers. So this is a huge deception, and we all know that it doesn't work that way. IS are making their own money. They will not earn in any way, have any direct reward from ISPs. Okay, so please, I want you to debunk that as a mobile developer. But I also know that there's a possibility of applications yielding money, both from the goods and services that are being offered on the application, and so many other options that people can actually generate funds with their mobile application beyond going to, of course, we'll talk about the career part where you get a job, but I mean shipping an application to any store, people download it and you start making money from it. So how, what was the possibility, and how can persons who want to go into mobile development start making an arrangement on how to earn from their mobile applications? Thank you.
Amazing. Okay, that's
Yeah.
there's this saying that you learn after learning, you start earning, right? So it's good that we're talking about the earning part. So being a mobile developer is, I'll be honest with you, I've not gotten the amount of job I've gotten as a mobile developer is the jobs is bigger than the amount of jobs I've gotten as a web developer or a backend engineer because of before AI came into play, it was mobile first. So literally, it's more mobile and AI first. But even though AI is first, but it's still mobile in a way in Nigeria and in so many other places. I'll give you an example. Then we talk about the money part. Whenever somebody talk about the product, somebody talk about there is this what you hear is there is this app that when you put your face, it will do this. That's what you keep on hearing. When you say there's a product, they'll say, where is the app? Is it on Play Store? That's the first thing that comes into your mind. That's the first thought. Is it on Play Store? Is it on App Store? You do not ask what is the web address. I'm a web developer, don't mind me. So, but that's one of the reasons mobile is one of the lucrative careers or tech careers you can move into, which is very, very nice. And for you to monetize, you can monetize by working for companies. Companies are always hiring. One of the first things you asked me during the call was what to learn. What to learn. I'll be very honest with you. Let's be very honest with ourselves, so that you get something out of this. As I'm a Nigerian who spends so much time in Nigeria, and I want to create or have a career on mobile dev that I can use to possibly fund my living, fund the life of people that I know or care about. I can't actually start and then I'll be like, I want to learn Swift. Swift is amazing. But you ask yourself where you are, the country you are, how many people uses iPhone? That is one. And where you are, how many companies will hire you just to build iOS apps? A lot of startups in Nigeria, even as a beginner that want to hire you, will hire you for you to build cross-platform apps. Before we move to the monetization part, because the first thing is to learn. So this will hire you to just write Swift, and then hire another person to write Kotlin. And whenever they want to push a new feature, they write it for this and write it for that. In Nigeria, it will be like if there are 1,000 companies, it will be less than 80 or less than 70 or less than 50 that still do this as I'm talking. A lot of people are switching from what they are doing to cross-platform tools or cross-platform frameworks. Then when you feel like you have this knowledge, you can work for them. That's the one way to do it. And another way to do it is by building apps that, as you mentioned, the person who thought like the same way SEO works is almost is not the same way it works here. But the thing there is that you can use ads, but ads might not be your best go-to. Why it will not be your best go-to is that imagine you are using imagine you are using the for people who are Muslims or Christians. Imagine you are using a Quran app or a Christian app, and you are reading Bible. You are using it to do morning devotion, where you are reading, and then an app comes up. And I don't know if you've ever used an app that is free, and then the app comes up. The app will want you to watch that ad. People have structured the app so badly that they want you to watch the ads till it's complete. And when it's completed, they will prompt you to download it. You will even see the button to cancel it. That is constantly happening to me, one of the Bible apps I'm using. And you see it there, you have to keep on at it till the cancel button comes up, then you now remove it. And that will, when you do it first day, second day, third day, the person who built the app feels like they've monetized their app using ads, right? And they are excessively throwing it at you every now and then. But at the end of the day, they are losing people, but they feel like they are making money, but they are losing a lot of customers who want to use the product and who the product is actually serving a very good purpose. That's another thing. The product you build is nice, but you are pouring too much ads on it. So what you can do if you are using ads is to use it sparingly. You can have a user who uses an app. You can monitor them using local storage. You can monitor if they've used your app. Show them the ads maybe once a day, twice a day, or depending on where they go to. If they are reading this or they are doing that, or when it is idle, which app shows? There's an app that shows you. There is an app that shows you an ad when exactly. I know the app. I'm not even going to mention it, but there's a product I've used on the web. It shows you an ad when you stop using it. Like when you are idle, it automatically knows when you are idle and it will show you an ad. And once you come back to it, the ad is off. So the ads, you get paid using AdSense. That is one. The same way you get paid using AdSense when you're running blogs, right? They don't convert, as you rightfully mentioned, they don't convert your data to money. No, it doesn't work that way. The ads, these ads have people who are paying for AdSense, who are promoting their products. They can actually promote it on your app if you feel like your app needs a whole lot of needs a lot of users and stuff like that. But the best way to do it is using subscription and in-app purchase. So we're going to talk about it briefly. So if I'm building a product, I'm building an app. So I used to discuss this a lot with my partner, and I used to be like, if I'm building an app and I want to make money from it, I will run ads on it. What I will do is this: I will use the tier level system that a whole lot of products are learning. Let me give you an example. So if I'm building that, assuming I'm the one that owns that Bible app, see what I will do different. I will give you that same service, that same reading of the Bible, reading of the Quran, searching verses in Quran, verses in Bible, and all of that. Then I will give other kind of features. If I'm bringing AI to the future, where you to the app, where you have to converse with the AI, you have to, let's say you are feeling down, you are feeling emotional, you have anxiety, you have that, you want to vet, and then you want to seek these references from the Quran or from the Bible that will sort your mind, that will give you peace. I will create an AI that can do this, but I'll put it on premium. That's it. Then I'll bring journal, I'll bring stuff, all of those ones that look inciting, something that I can create a platform outside talking to the AI. I can create a feature where when you come into the feature, it will ask you for your mood. So you can say, like a whole lot of us, what we deal with most of the times is losing jobs. We tech developers, or we, for everybody, literally, once you're an adult, your greatest fear is the fear of not being employed again, not providing for yourself or for your family and all of that. And a whole lot of people face anxieties, not just where you are, everywhere, all around the whole world. Everybody have anxiety, everybody have stress. But most people face depression. So if I'm building that app, I can ask you for mood. Especially people that pay references to the Bible, to the Quran, like myself. So I used to reference what I'm going through by looking at the Quran or looking at the Bible and finding something that can suit my soul or suit my mind or stuff like that. So I'll make that feature that looks so exciting outside the basic feature premium. That's just it. And I, even as an app developer, will download your app and pay money for me to use those services. That's it. So you need to answer the basic question. And that thing is the subscription part. This can be weekly, this can be monthly. Let me give you another example. If you are building a workout app, and this workout app, the free plan is for you to do the workouts, for you to show all of these workout stuff, give users the ability for them to use that basic feature, which is the workout. Then you have all these advanced workouts, just like you want to lose weight, you want to grow your arm. You are now specifying different kind of specified workout for different kinds of body increment or body weight or whatsoever, where you can come in and put your weight, your current weight, and put the weight you want to get, put in it to give you a time zone, it will give you a timeline, and then this timeline will be something, it will give you like an estimate when you get to this weight, and then it will be giving you strategic workout plans. You see that's a different plan, and a whole lot of people will pay to use it. That's the advanced one. That's when you get it monetized. That's when people pay for it. You don't force them to pay it. What you just have to be seeing is in your Stripe account or in whatsoever, your Flutter Wave dashboard, you just be seeing people paying for it. But your app is for free. But it has advanced parts. The same thing goes with the learning course. If I'm doing something, just like another thing is building an app that offers services, or a whole lot of developers or engineers, as we are talking about, are people who don't have external services they offer. They don't have external services, like they're not selling, they're not doing buying and selling, they're just building solutions. And you can even kickstart this now. And the beautiful part of it is that all of these features are just common features you get to add. They are just like something you add on top to make it more exciting. Then now what those things are making more exciting, you add subscriptions to it. You can use Stripe, you can use Flutterwave. You can use any form of payment gateway that is out there to handle the subscription and in-app purchase. That's just it.
Wow. So this is super, super cool. I mean, I like the way you are addressing it from reality. I mean, especially with our experience in Nigeria here. Okay. So for someone who has experienced these uh, ads, I mean, personally, they are very terrible. I'm telling you, I don't like going back to those applications except if I don't have an alternative. And sometimes, in fact, most of the times, I would rather pay. I mean, pay
Exactly.
money to get my freedom and also to just see what I want to see. But most times they show you what you don't want to see. So it's not really a good experience. But I also like the balance you brought in. If you are gonna allow ads, make it reasonable, make it minimal, make it friendly to the users. Don't force them to see it, especially when it has to cover the entire screen. Cover, yes, of course, I've seen that part. There's this one that was happening. I was looking for the button to terminate this. Do you know that the worst thing that happened was I clicked it, and I tried to terminate it, actually directed me to Play Store to download the application. Now it's kind of messy. And
Honestly.
very messy. So I was very disappointed and angry. Okay, so yeah,
Yeah.
it happens. There are some that you are using this application, the ad comes up without even informing you. Something just starts playing. I thank God for some of them that I intentionally you put it mute it at least at the onset because it starts playing loud and it can be embarrassing sometimes, very very embarrassing.
Yeah.
So thank you so
Yeah.
much. One thing about development, this that we stay in the Nigerian market. Okay, so what we are experiencing and what we are facing, some of the challenges that are in there is good to put ads on your application, but how do your users feel about it? How are they really enjoying it? Is it friendly to your users? Is it what they want to see? Okay, so for some of them, it can be crazy, can be so crazy, right? So if you're adding ads to your application, make it minimal, make it reasonable, make it friendly to the users. You should also appreciate the fact that someone is putting in time and attention to your application. I know you want to make money, but to make it reasonable, make it mild. Okay, so thank you very much. And also trying to sell something, putting in subscriptions and all those stuff can help, you know, get those stuffs right. So thank you very much. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. So, like, what advice do you give to a Nigerian now who is trying to go into the mobile application field? So, what's the future of mobile development? Seeing AI and all those things coming in, where do you see mobile development in 2026, 2027, and going forward? Okay, and then what are skills and what kind of portfolio should someone have to position himself for the future? How can someone become a future ready mobile developer in Nigeria? Most times trying to access the global markets, get jobs outside. How do you position yourself in a way that you can access jobs across the country, in the US, in the UK, and different parts of the world? So, yeah, I think we can just wrap it up from here and try to balance it. Thank you. Yeah.
Amazing. So you mentioned the future of mobile app in 2026 and how you position yourself for this period of AI. That is another thing. And how you build yourself for global. That is attract jobs outside Nigeria or within Nigeria and stuff, and how you position your portfolio and stuff. So for the future, 2026, mobile app is still going to be the same. The only beautiful part of it is that the AI is now shaping experiences. That's just it. On the upside, AI is shaping experiences, giving you ability for you to do a whole lot of stuff. So the same way Gemini 3 came, you utilize it in the app. You use what Gemini 3 is pushing on your app and bringing that experience Gemini 3 is giving or is serving to your users. That's exactly what it is. Then on the development side of things, since Gemini 3 is there is Gemini CLI, there is Code Assist, there is Copilot, there is a whole lot, which can actually give you an ability for you not um to rush online. I can remember, goodness me, I can remember one of the problems I had when I was using Laravel that took me 2 weeks to solve. 2 weeks. I went online, I searched it, I went to Stack Overflow, I followed every single thing, and the only solution I found was a solution that was in this happened in either 2020 or thereabouts, yes. And then the solution I saw was a solution of 5 years ago. I tried that solution, it didn't work. So
Yeah.
the only solution was I need to start reducing or start migrating lower, start reducing the version I was on or stuff like that. So that's it. But now all these things are being solved in the sense that I've not seen a developer who is under my wing, or I've not worked in a company where a bug lasts more than a week. There's a lot. You try this, it doesn't work. You switch model. You try it in Gemini, it doesn't work. You go to OpenAI, that is ChatGPT, it doesn't work. You move to this one. You must find one that works. And the advantage is that it can actually give you sources. It can even help you solve a whole lot of things. That is how the AI is. It's not coming to replace you. And one of the beautiful part of it is that even as we have all of these AI that can build front end, that can build front end of webs, front end of mobile. It doesn't replace you being a designer or being a mobile developer that is building. No. What it does is that it empowers you to build faster, to ship faster. And then the kind of portfolio you need to have. You see, you are starting up, nobody is going to know you. Single human being is going to know you. Imagine this now. So imagine this scenario. You start up, you make a decision this evening to start your career as a mobile developer. And then you install Android Studio, install VS Code, you start learning, you go to Udemy, or maybe you don't have funds to get Udemy, you go to, there is a course in Free Code Camp that is up to either 32 hours on Flutter, which is very amazing. That I recommend to a lot of people who don't have resources to go buy in, especially students and people who are already maybe bankers or stuff that want to move into mobile. There's a course. I will send it to you, Prince, so that you send it to people in your community. It's on Free Code Camp and it's very detailed. It starts you from the ground up as a Flutter engineer, as a Flutter developer, teach you the basic, and then you kick off from there. And when you're doing this, when you start this,
Wow.
nobody is going to know who you are. I won't know who you are.
Mm.
Even if you want, create a LinkedIn profile that same day, nobody is going to know you. Nobody is going to see you. Even if you want, create GitHub account. What can people see? People can see what you built. And the question now is, what you built can only come to life when you work with a company, right? With a startup or a company or stuff like that. But it doesn't need to be like that. You can build projects. You can go to Figma. Figma has a whole lot of open source designs that are structured for you to use. You can edit it. You can do. The owner already has the main one. What you just have to do is that you get the whole thing that a company or a startup is going to give to you for you to work. You can actually build that system. If you want the images, screenshot it. I'm telling you things that I've done already. Screenshot the images. You don't even need to reach out to the person that's on the. I remember one music app I built then in 2022 or thereabouts. The lady who designed it was a lady in Europe. I reached out to her on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on email. She didn't respond because she's busy. She's working actually. What did I do? I will zoom the Figma design. Is it that Figma or on Behance? I will zoom it, screenshot it to my phone. That is the image she used. I will screenshot it to the Mac, screenshot it, and make sure that I get something that is actually a little pixel perfect. So people used to complain, how will I do this? We look for excuses instead of executions. So you don't need to even, the designer doesn't need to reach out to you because she's working and you are just somebody who she doesn't even know. That's another thing, or who he doesn't even know. So you can get those assets, you can mirror it, design it, post it on Twitter, post it on LinkedIn. That's it. You started building your portfolio. I mean, if you just started today, you can do this in the next 3 months. That means if you do this today, next tomorrow, and all of that, it gives you ability for you to have a portfolio you can show for you to start looking for a job. Then for the global market, the beautiful part of thing is that when you are building a career, you're not building a career where the people that is going to employ you will only be Nigerians. No, the thing you have to do is that you have to position yourself as a global talent. You have to position yourself as somebody who can be employed by a company in Germany, a company in Estonia, a company in US, a company in North America. The only way you can do this is by positioning yourself product wise, community wise, open source wise. So the question is this: if somebody wants, if you submit a portfolio, one of the big parts is that a lot of companies are not hiring people out of their region because of taxation issues. Because if you're working from a different region, they won't be able to, most of them can't be able to pay your tax. And another thing is that their government they need to show to their government that they've tried advertising this job in their company for the last, most of them 30 months, 30 days, most of them 1 year, and no local wants the job. So that's the reason they are pushing for somebody who is outside. They need to show proof to this. So the easiest way people do it is by giving you a freelance contract, just like somebody who is working in Upwork. That way, it's a freelance contract. They don't need to there's no employment or whatsoever. Even if there's employment, they have that term, freelance contract or stuff like that. But the question now is, how can somebody who lives in Netherlands trust somebody who lives in Ikeja in Lagos in Nigeria that you can be able to deliver? That is by what you see, what they see. That's just it. So people work with visuals. Outside you and I that developers, or you and I that want to start this, the best thing out there is show a lot of visuals. If you need to write technical articles, write technical articles. If you need to show what you are doing, make sure what you are presenting is something that you can show evidence to it. Build projects. When you build projects, share them on Twitter, share them on LinkedIn. You might not even have a single like on it or a single impression, but people are saying it. When you apply for a job, if you've ever been in a position where you have a family member who has hired somebody in a company, or maybe your spouse is a HR executive or whatsoever, you get to see the process that goes into hiring. And the majority of it is based on visuals, CV, LinkedIn, GitHub. most of these people don't even understand code. They are not technical in any form. Even the biggest HR technical person is somebody, maybe somebody that has written code once or two or all of that. And GitHub, if you base yourself on working for, if you base yourself on working for companies and you don't have projects, and somebody wants to vet between you and the next 5 persons who is going to come in, and maybe the top 3, and they're looking at your GitHub, they now bring in somebody who is technical. How do they know that you are technical enough? What's the digital blueprint you have? Imagine they go to your GitHub, and then the last thing they're seeing there is something you posted in 2018, where you had intro to HTML. Everything is private. They go to your Twitter, you're posting comics, you're reposting comedy, you're reposting dance, you're reposting stuff that doesn't relate to your field, you're reposting football. All those things are nice, they're amazing. But you need to know that this is your career, this is your presence, your digital footprint. Then they go to your LinkedIn, you've never made any post. Your LinkedIn is just there. You don't even have a picture on your LinkedIn. So one thing you say is that reach out. How would they reach out to your team members? How would they see your code that you've written that is so amazing in that your company that you worked? How would they see it? They can't. That is it. This works 2 ways, both Nigerian companies and foreign companies. For foreign companies, it's 2 times the effort. That's it. So we need to intentionally want it. So you need to intentionally create digital footprint. Create digital footprint that when somebody is trying to vet what you've done or trying to get to know you, they get to see a lot that you've done. It doesn't need to be a lot. It can just be the fact that on LinkedIn, you used to talk about the project you've done, even if it's 1, even if it's 2. Most of the jobs that you see, most of the people you see that don't do all of this get jobs through recommendation. As in, most people bring them in and then they do the interview, they have upper hands to it. When you are just starting, where you don't have a network yet, you need to do the job. You need to show that digital footprint where somebody will not mistake you as a TikToker, mistake you as an influencer, or mistake you as somebody who is promoting comedy. That's exactly how it is like.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I think this aspect says a whole lot, especially about positioning. You need to prove your competence. So one of our speakers in the previous sessions mentioned that people don't hire the best, but they hire the available best. Okay, so when they look at your portfolio, when they look at your digital presence, and it's not convincing enough, no matter what you have, no matter the skill you have, and your portfolio in terms of your skill qualifications that are not being revealed through your portfolio and your social media presence, they won't be able to hire you. Right. So thank you so much. And I really appreciate this. I think you have just summarized everything, and I don't really think there are so much for me to put in right now. Thank you so much for today and for joining us, for sharing an amazing experience with us today. It captures everything about this session stands for and what we aim to deliver to the society in terms of value about what should be done and how things should be done, right? So the struggles that developers and beginners have, starting from what to start with and how to start, and after you've started, how to position yourself to start becoming influential, to being open to work, to being open to jobs, and making yourself job ready is something very, very important. And you have just given us a whole lot of insights on how these things can be done. All right. So thank you guys. Thank you all the listeners and everyone who has joined us for today's session. Okay. So you've all seen that it takes a lot of effort. Okay. So you don't need to be comfortable before you start. You can just start with what you have. You can start with your mobile phone. Just your mobile phone is enough. Okay, so Anthony here has shared some of his article ideas and some of the content he has written about how to start and some of the things he mentioned today. So he'll be sharing it with me, and I'm going to do well to share it on our social media platforms. So if you're not following us yet, follow us on LinkedIn. You can follow Softzenith on LinkedIn, or you can follow me as well, Prince Yusomaga. Anthony is here. follow him on LinkedIn, Ator Anthony, just the same name that appear here on this session. When you go on LinkedIn, you can follow him. I believe if you send him a connect, he will accept you. But even if he doesn't get the time to accept you, follow him. He makes posts at different intervals. I came to know him through his posts, right? So when I read through one of his posts, I sent him an invite, and that's how we connected, and making it to this event today is part of that connection. Okay, so please don't keep quiet with what you are doing. Go read articles, even if you don't have any project idea. Read articles, try to replicate what others are doing. That's one of the ways to grow. Replicate what you are seeing people, what you see people do. Go to GitHub, clone repositories, run it on your locals, test it, ship it, talk about it, criticize it, debug it, make it better and improve it, and all those stuff. There are so many things that you can do as a beginner to show your work, to show your competence to the world. And know you that if you don't reveal what you can do, people will not believe you. So thank you so much. I appreciate it. And we're bringing it to a close. But before we close, I don't know if you have any other remark or anything you want to share with the audience. You want to encourage them more, or something you want to tell them as your closing remark before we end the session.
Yeah. So the only thing there is, for people who want to move into mobile, it is just like learning a new language. It gets overwhelming. That's it. So when you're learning new things, it gets overwhelming, and you have all of these unknowns. You ask yourself, what I'm learning, is it the best thing I'm learning? And see the beautiful part of it. Almost everybody here is going to live to the next 50, 60 years or thereabouts. So you have a lot of time to pivot to something different. So what you are choosing doesn't even need to be the best of the best. And it doesn't need to compel you. You need to build a career that is not based on compel. It's not based on frustration or pressure or stuff relating to that. You need to be able to turn off the noise and put in the work. That's just it. So you need to learn how to turn off the noise. That is it, and really learn. So if you want to switch, one of the big part of it is that majority of individuals who are pivoting to mobile are coming from experience. Most of them are people who have things they are doing, they have jobs they are working on. When I moved to mobile, I had the job I was working on. I was working on a physical job, 9 to 5 job. I was doing internship actually. And I was going to office 7 in the morning, coming back by 5 in the night. So I was using my free time to study till I felt like I was good, and I applied for a mobile job. So it doesn't need to, you need to put it in a way that you don't give yourself you don't give yourself too much pressure. You don't mount unexecutable expectations, or give yourself those kind of pressures where you feel like you need to use 2 weeks and learn it, or 3 weeks and learn it, and you are good. No, you need to understand the basics the same way you understood, the same way you studied for an exam, you passed the exam. You didn't just study for one night. Yes, a lot of us used to do that then. But for you to have that good knowledge, it has a process. And you don't need to be an influencer for you to position yourself for jobs. No, you just need to talk about what you know. You can start a blog. You can write on a weekend about what you know. So that's why when people ask, what kind of thing can I post on LinkedIn? Can I post on Twitter? Post what you do every day. That's it. That's what you do. Post that bug. Yeah, because of IP and NDA, you are not meant to dive into details on the bug you solved. But you can actually abstract or find a way to talk about what you've done in a way that you are not sharing the algorithm of the work you've done in your company. That's the truth. You
Yeah.
don't need to share that because of IP. There is NDA violation there. But there is a way you can actually talk about the things and that's why when what I do and the stuffs I've shared are projects. So when I feel like I want to talk about things, I dive on a personal project and start building stuff and start sharing it because of NDA. You can't share that algorithm you solved on your project or stuff. And then people ask, if I'm doing a job, how can I have time for personal projects? That's what weekends are for. And work
Mm-hmm.
closes by 5. So if you have a very good if you have a very good work-life balance, you can close work by 5, do your personal project from 6 to 7, or from 5 to 6. Your personal project, just 1 hour a day. If you do 1 hour a day, that means from Monday to Friday, you've contributed 5 hours to your project. Then on Saturday, you do 6 hours or you do 5 hours. That is 10 in a week. Goodness me. Why would you have something to talk about almost every day? Or almost, and you don't need to do it periodically. You can post on Twitter or on LinkedIn once a week or twice a week, talking about what you're working on, 1 hour a day. That's it. Or you can just to post on a Saturday when you've combined your 10 hours of work. Let's say by 6 on a Saturday, you can share your experience or stuff you're battling with on your personal project. That's it. Your company project doesn't suffer. You don't violate NDA. You keep on growing. So the best thing there is to create balance, because everybody out there, in as much as they are an adults, have a job they are doing. Most of the times, it's not a technical job. Most of the times, it's a technical job. And no matter how you see it, it might be physical, it might be remote, but you need to find it. You need to find a way to create a balance for yourself. Once a day study or once a day project contribution is enough. That's it. Thank you so much.
Wow, thank you very much. Thank you so much. I think you made a very important point, specifically with consistency. Okay, it's not about how big the time you commit in a day is about how consistent you can become with it. If you can be consistent with 1 hour every day, it's a whole lot. And this goes with both as well. If 1 hour quality, if you can contribute to anything, I mean, even if you are still learning, it's a whole lot. So persons meet me and they are like, well, I'm a student, I can't combine lectures with learning. I heard that you need to learn 8 hours every day to become a developer. And who said that? That's not true. Because so many of us, even most impacts that we made at some point in our career, we were students while we were making them. Okay, so you don't just have to have all the time. Even after I left school, I didn't have much time again, because most of the times I'm working. If I'm not working, I'm doing some kind of research, doing some personal projects, doing some personal research and all those stuff. So you will never find yourself free as long as you are ready to make impact. What matters is you push yourself and ensure that you, even if it is 20 minutes a day, I tell people, if that is what you have, it's enough. It's better than doing nothing. If it's 10 minutes every day that you can commit, it's better than doing nothing. Don't wait for the day you will have 20 hours to contribute to something, and then you would not go back to that thing for the next 3 weeks or 2 weeks, and then you come back again and contribute 20 hours. It doesn't work that way. Keep it consistent, keep it going. Okay, just keep it very consistent perpetually and ensure that you show up on a daily basis. Keep it daily, keep it consistent, no matter how minimal, no matter how small, you are going to win. Okay, thank you so much, Anthony. I really appreciate it. So thank you for joining us. I can't appreciate it enough. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So guys, we'll be calling it a day, and I know you really enjoyed today's session. If you have any question, my DM is open on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on Facebook as well. The same name, Softzenith. You can also check me personally on my personal DMs, like Prince Yusomaga, and Anthony is here. You can also hit him up, right? Ask any question you want to answer you, right? So if you are not subscribed to our channel, please do well to subscribe and invite your friends. If you have your friends, students, or anyone who is trying to find a path in tech, this is your go-to. This is where you can come every week on Thursday to enjoy sessions like this. Okay, you don't know how much this is helping you. There are a lot of problems I've solved for you just listening to some of the things that you have faced and how we're able to solve them. Okay, so thank you guys. Thank you so much. So Anthony, thank you so much for coming. I hope we have time to meet you again at your convenience.
Definitely.
Thank you very
Definitely.
much.
Definitely.
All right. All
Thank
right.
you.
I really appreciate it. So call it a
Yeah.
day, guys. Bye everyone. Bye.